There's cheap and cheerful and cheap and nasty. What's this going to be? It's a brand new mid-size SUV launched by KGM SsangYong. It's called the Torres. On first impressions, I like the rugged design theme. It's pretty unique. It doesn't look like anything else on the market. Sometimes car brands come up with unique designs purely to stand out, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's appealing. Whereas this, I think it stands out. It's definitely exclusive, but it's still appealing on some level. It's got a bit of rugged attitude about it. It looks like it's got good ground clearance, and the way the roof rises up and separates from the door line there, it kind of looks like a very tall, traditional, upright SUV. There are 3 variants on sale in Australia. This is the mid-spec Adventure. You can tell that this is not the base model because it has these little spotlights or driving lights on the sides there. The top spec Ultimate features larger alloy wheels and all-wheel drive. This is only front-wheel drive like the entry model. I'm not sure what these little handles are. Is that so you can easily take off the bonnet, suggesting the bonnet's always coming off? It does look kind of, you know, rally-like. And at the back here, we've got this Audi R8-esque silver panel for the C-pillar, which again gives it a unique touch. And around at the back here, we've got this kind of deceiving tailgate. This bulge here makes it appear like it's got the spare wheel on the back, like a sort of 1990s, 1980s SUV. And then even this grab handle, you feel like the tailgate's going to swing sideways, but it's actually just got a button behind there, and it's just a normal uprising tailgate. Decent sized boot though, 465 litres, which is not bad for this class. There are some rivals that offer a bit more. We've got a 12-volt socket hidden down in the corner. What I do love though is underneath here we've got, well, it's a space saver spare, which is not great if you're doing a lot of touring, but I love that you can store away the security blind, because in some SUVs there's nowhere to actually store the security blind. Say for example you go to the shop and you buy a big piece of bulky furniture or something like that. You weren't planning to do that. You get there anyway, you take the security blind out. There's nowhere to put it, so you end up putting it in the back seat. If you've got passengers there, then they're going to be standing on it. I think it's just really handy to have a spot within the vehicle to store that. Or conversely, you leave it in the garage and you're out and about, and then suddenly you need the security blind, so you can't actually use it. In the back here, we've got probably one of the most spacious rear seat areas in this class. I like the convenient pockets on both sides, dual USB ports, climate vents, cup holders, bottle holders in the doors. It's got everything in here and very spacious. Like, this feels like almost a large SUV. The ceiling is nowhere near my head because it raises up, as we saw on the outside. But yeah, I feel like I could just sit back and relax, go for a nice big drive. Good visibility from the back here. I'll just close the door for a second. It does have tinted windows. Apologies if it's a little bit dark. I can easily see over the windowsill though, which is going to be good if you're carting around kids all the time, because they're less likely to get car sick and claustrophobic. What I find a little bit unusual though is the seat is quite reclined. I'm not sure if you can tell just by looking, but yeah, it's actually laid back a bit, which is good for headroom, but I feel like I'm kind of slouched, maybe too much, and you can't actually adjust it, not that I can see anyway. You've got the conventional little lever up here to flip forward the seat, but it just goes back into one spot. And then there's no adjustment down here. I mean, it's better than being too upright, then it would be uncomfortable. In the front here, we've got quite a modern layout. It's got the bronze style of treatment there, which seems to be a bit of a fashion. Cupra and even Lotus is going for a similar kind of theme. Seamless dual screens across the dash. There's no join in the middle there, and they're kind of curved or kinked. There are no physical buttons around, which is a little bit annoying. You do have multiple charging ports, plenty of storage actually, including under the console there, and then dual cup holders and a nice big center console box. But if you want to adjust anything, you've got to go via the screen. And it's just a little bit distracting in my opinion, because say you've got Apple CarPlay happening and you want to adjust the temperature. Well, you can't actually do that from within this screen. You've got to go back to the home button or push the climate control setting there. It is good that there are main menu buttons down the side here, even while you're running Apple CarPlay, because some vehicles, this screen will take over the whole area and there's no option for that. So if you want to change the air conditioning, you've got to go back into the vehicle app to adjust things. Nice clear instrument cluster screen. I like that it's not too bright, and you can change the display modes and whatnot. And you can adjust the brightness pretty easily. You just pull down this tab here and it gives you a quick jump to setting for that. And it does actually remain there even if you are running Apple CarPlay. So even though there's no little symbol there, you can actually pull it down still. I'm not a fan of this big ugly steering wheel. It's a bit of a SsangYong thing. All of their latest models have got a similar wheel. It's just really large. It does have a kind of flat bottom, but the spokes are just, it's not elegant to look at. It does have the kind of Hyundai Kia buttons where you got your volume and skip track on one side, then your cruise control on the other side. Very simple to use. You can actually turn your lane keep assist off just by holding down the button here. And the little symbol will turn orange. And then under the bonnet here, we've got a 1.5 litre turbo petrol 4-cylinder engine, 120 kilowatts, 280 Newton meters, which, you know, it's not the most powerful option in this class. Remembering this goes up against the likes of the Toyota RAV4, Mazda CX-5. CX-5 is available with a 2.5 turbo, 170 kilowatts, 120. Yeah, it's definitely down on power a little bit compared with some of those, you know, popular rivals. But I think this will be okay because it's pretty simple. It comes paired with a 6-speed automatic. It's not a CVT, it's not a complex dual clutch, which I think is perfect for a car like this. You just want something that's basic, straightforward, less likely to cause problems with reliability, but still just does the job. So we'll go for a drive now. I'm just going to drive on a country road for this test. I'm not going to bother doing a sort of handling test with this, although we'll go around some corners and so on. On first impressions, the suspension is definitely very soft. So it's suited to, you know, rough roads like this that just have lots of bumps and uneven surfaces. It does offer 195 millimeters of ground clearance, which is okay. You can go camping and so on. It's not going to scrub out the bottom. But yeah, then we'll do the performance test later on as well. Actually, you know what? We'll take on the winding road and just see how it handles. Because sometimes you can have a soft setup that still handles okay. Like as in the tracking is nice, the steering is relatively precise, and so on. I remember Hyundai models used to be like that about 5 or 10 years ago, where they were pretty soft in terms of the suspension tune, but it still handled okay. The wheels remained where you wanted them to go. On first impressions, this is kind of like that. It's absorbing the bumps in a sort of relaxed manner, but it's comfortable. The steering is communicative. I can kind of feel what's going on. It's not the nicest steering, but I can feel what's going on. I think the steering wheel is actually the biggest letdown. It just feels too big and awkward. Like, I'll just stop for a second. If you measured the distance between that top corner and right down to the bottom, it just feels like it's huge, and then it's not perfectly round. I don't know, it's just a little bit off-putting in my opinion. They fit a nicer steering wheel. I think it would make drives along roads like this more enjoyable. So at that point there, I've got this weird corner bit while my other hand is way over the other side here. Down this tight, twisty section, put a lot of pressure on the outside front wheel. Yeah, it's holding on okay. Just push it a bit harder. A little bit of understeer, but it was predictable. Definitely a little bit of body lean going on, but it remains at that point. It doesn't get any worse, and you can still change direction pretty quickly. As in, yeah, it handles okay. It's just in a soft setup with a lot of suspension travel. There is actually a sport mode as well. I'll just drop down this little thing and you hit drive mode. Little sport symbol comes up. There's actually a winter mode as well. Makes it more relaxing. Well, that makes the throttle response more relaxed, I mean. We'll try the sport mode. Full throttle. Tip it in. Yeah, there's actually a little bit of torque steer happening. I can feel some tugging of the wheel, which is unusual for an engine that only produces 120 kilowatts. It does make it a bit more engaging, I suppose, a bit more lively. And at least there is some communication coming back through the wheel to let me know that. Some cheap models I've driven down here, yeah, you don't actually know. It's just a bit sloppy, then all of a sudden the wheel will start spinning. You didn't actually predict that that was going to happen. Whereas at least this, it is telling me what's going on. Yeah, look, it definitely handles better than I expected. This is a budget-focused model, so you can't, you know, it's not a performance-focused model either. But yeah, it's steering just fine. I can throw it in, I can turn where I want to turn, and it seems to be relatively happy. At speed, it's actually pretty refined and quiet. I'm surprised how quiet it is. Even with all those chunky bits of bodywork hanging out, it's cutting through the air nicely. Even around the side mirror there, there's no excessive wind noise. I can't even hear any wind noise at all around that mirror area. There's a bit of crosswind happening. I can hear something at the back, and there was a bit of a rattle from the tailgate or maybe even that security blind on a rough road, but we'll encounter some potholes and so on in a minute. Yeah, it's surprisingly refined. What do we think though? Cheap and cheerful or cheap and nasty? I think it's cheap and cheerful. I like the design. It's got that rugged sort of cartoonish character, even with that kind of fake spare wheel on the back. I think it looks adventurous. Over this very rough surface, the suspension is working hard, but it's remaining very comfortable inside. So as I said, if you are spending a lot of time out in country roads like this, and even on dirt roads, I mean the all-wheel drive is a little bit better for dirt roads, but if you're spending a lot of time on roads like this, I think the Torres is definitely suited for that. In terms of fuel economy, we're averaging 10.1 litres per 100 at the moment, but I think that'll drop down a bit with extended normal use. It does actually come with a tyre pressure monitor as well, like a live tyre pressure gauge as well, which is quite good considering this is a mid-spec model and this is a budget SUV, so it's kind of good to have that. The interior is very spacious. I like the design of the interior as well. Fit and finish seems pretty good, apart from that little rattle at the back there, but you know, we are on a very rough surface, and again, this is a sort of budget focused SUV. I think the design is really good though. It's got lots of practicality measures in here, lots of storage and heaps of passenger space as well. Good legroom and headroom in the front and back. Overall, it's a decent package. Definitely worth at least looking at. Take one for a test drive and see if it suits you. Alright, let's head to the private road now and do the performance test to see what it goes like. The brakes aren't too good, well the tyres aren't very good because it just keeps skidding along. That was 43.13 meters, which is not the best considering this is a normal SUV. If it had all-terrain tyres on it or something like that, or it was a big heavy ute, that would make a bit more sense, but for a little car like this, little SUV, the braking isn't the best. I think a lot of it is down to those tyres.